Who are you? Who do you think you are? Carrying on, taking this way too far. I can play
So, Mersey Wylie, very interesting name, sticks in your mind. What's the story there?
Yeah.
Where are you from and where you're up to now?
My dad's a Scouser, so from Liverpool, which is where my name genuinely comes from. So I was named after the... Actually, I was technically named after a song called A Girl Called Mersey.
Right.
By Pavlov's dog. So they say. My mum's Australian. I grew up in London and then lived in Australia for 9 years. I used to play the saxophone. That's my journey over there. And then I came over here to sing. Came back to Liverpool just to kind of find my feet back in the UK and fell in love with it. And have been here for 4 years now and don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon.
So when did your musical journey begin again, quite seriously then?
Okay, well, I guess when I left Australia and I moved to the UK, that was kind of my first major decision. I gave up the saxophone and switched my focus onto singing full time.
Yeah.
And that was when that was the true, like, right, I'm gonna do this and give it a go. Stop playing nice, think you're so big, sat up there, you painted on, smiling slick back hair. Think you're so good, getting paid way more than you should. Think you're so wise, spinning stories, feeding me lies.
So what were those early gigs like?
Well, a lot of my early gigs were with other people, so I've done backing vocals for a lot of other groups. I'm in a choir called Sense of Sound. They were my first kind of vocal gigs, I suppose. And it was a really nice way to kind of ease into things because you still, like, I love being on stage, but you don't really get those nerves when you've got that many people around you. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there. And then I've only been doing my own original music since earlier this year.
Right.
So that was a really different thing to go into, but it's been great so far.
So it's been quite a switch then. You're going into writing your own music. So
yeah.
And then you brought Jack on board. So
yeah.
How did that partnership then blossom? Because you've got great chemistry straight away as well. How did you add to what Mersey was doing then, Jack?
I don't know really. Well, we met through mutual friends and stuff through Liverpool, and I don't know. We kind of just had a jam. Basically, there was a thing called Threshold House Band.
Yeah.
So the idea of house band is that it's for like solo artists who don't really have the opportunity to have their songs as full arrangements.
Right.
So we kind of had a jam beforehand. Well, the day before, then we went up and did some rehearsing and kind of just went from there really. And we kind of just clicked.
Yeah, it just worked.
And it was good fun.
I love Jack's playing and the way that he played my songs were better than I thought I wanted them played. You know, I had ideas of what I kind of wanted, and I've been performing with other people who I love as well. But and I had ideas of how I'd want a guitar playing it specifically, because I've not had a guitarist before. And then he played it completely differently, and I was like, oh no, that's way better. You keep doing that. Where is this going? What's your next move?
How would you describe your music then?
A real mix. This is a question I'm trying to get better at answering. But it all definitely comes from soul roots, a lot of jazz and blues influence. But it all has like a kind of pop undertone, you know, pop in its very broad sense.
Yeah. So most of your music's quite relatable, and it's.
I hope so.
What about the other flavours in there? What else have you been able to tune? Once you got that out, what else is coming now?
I'm not very good at kind of specifically going in to write something, but when things just sort of come along, something's kind of bugging me or not, you know, can be positive sometimes. Just loads of different influences have come in, but what I try and always do is songs that have been written about, you know, just friends or something like that, I try and bring them into a much more general sense, so hopefully other people can bring their own interpretations into it and stuff like that, and so hopefully they're a little bit more relatable than me just going, I really don't like this person that I met the other week. Sat up there with you painted on, smiling slick back hair. Think you're so good, getting paid way more than you should. Think you're so wise, spinning stories, feeding me lies. Think you're so much better. I'm a fighter.
And in terms of the bigger picture from your earliest music experiences,
Yep.
who are those inspirations? Who's been, you're out there and you think, well, that's where I want to be, and that's the voice I want to be coming out of me?
Oh, there's a couple. My absolute earliest, this has been with me since my earliest memories was Michael Jackson. Just from the get-go, my dad got me into the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson and took me to see him at Wembley when I was 7.
Wow.
Yeah. And most people, I don't think, would be brave enough to take a 7-year-old to a huge arena gig. But I was obsessed with Michael Jackson, and it wasn't cool back in like 1995. I was, in primary school. It was not cool to like Michael Jackson back then. And I got a lot of stick for it, but I never cared because he was just the ultimate performer. Amazing music, amazing entertainer. And that gig still stays with me as it's still one of the clearest memories in my mind, even though it's nearly 20 years old. And I just remember him walking out on stage and just turning, it was the first major gig that I'd ever been to. I'm just turning to my dad and going, "Is that really him?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's him." I was like, "He's so small." I couldn't believe that he was actually the size of a person, this massive, massive personality. You haven't seen the best of me. Just because I don't do what you do doesn't mean that I couldn't. You've underestimated me, and I think you know that you shouldn't. You might want to have a little bit more respect. Are
you a bit of a storyteller? Is there a
yeah,
narrative?
I think I always have to have a narrative in my stories, in my songs, sorry. Another, my more recent major influence is Jill Scott, and she again just writes so poetically, and it's those sides where the lyrical influences really come through. So yeah, I always try and tell a story in there.
And again, putting the package together, that is Mersey Wylie, and with Jack on board now as well. Thinking about where you're up to now as well, we're going to see a real mishmash of exactly where you're up to now.
I hope so, yeah.
What's next for you?
Well, it's the last 6 months or so that I've sort of been working on my own music have just been a lot of working it out, a lot of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully now that I've got some of those points, got the right people on board and got some of those parts in place, I'm hoping that the next step will be a bit of recording, proper recording, get an EP together, and just gig more. I just love gigging, so hopefully I can keep to it.
And fantastic.
Yeah.
So like everybody else, you have a great online presence as well. Where do we find Mersey Wylie online?
You can find me on all the usual stuff. So it is Mersey like the river, Mersey Wylie. I'm out on SoundCloud, Facebook / Mersey Wylie Music, Twitter at Mersey Wylie. Yeah, all the usual.
Fantastic.
I'm on YouTube as well, but I've not got much on there.